Common topic, especially with SV racers, is can you take one generation motor and put it in a different generation? We like to blow up motors, so it's easy to pick up whatever cheap motor you can find. And I got a perfect example here behind me. This is the old Army of Darkness SV endurance bike, and we got to swap in this first gen motor into it.
This thing's got a pretty crazy homemade Ram airbox going on. Kind of makes it a pain with all the wires coming in. Any of you guys that have had a Ram airbox, you know the pain of the throttle bodies and all that stuff. But one of the things you got to do to get that first gen motor in a second gen is you need these intake boots on your first gen motor, and they're a bitch sometimes. So impact driver, super easy. Slam her on there, hit it with a hammer, twist, and normally knocks these things right out. I wouldn't try to use a normal screwdriver, you're probably going to strip them. Alright, got the motor out of the bike. Now there's a bunch of things you need to swap from this motor, the second gen motor, onto the first gen motor, so the first gen motor works in our second gen. So first things first is the stators are different. The covers are the same, so you can swap one stator to the other, or you can just swap the whole cover. Behind the stator is the flywheel. Those are also different, so we need to swap the flywheel. Your gear position sensors are different, so you need to swap that so you get your neutral light. Our intake boots are different. We already took them off this motor, so we're going to swap them onto this motor. And then the sensor for your coolant is different, so we'll swap that as well. Two other differences are the second gen have a paravalve system, which can be deleted, as we see here, so we don't need to worry about that. Second gen also has an oil cooler. The first gen does not. Yeah, that happened in shipping. So did that. But I'm never satisfied, yeah. Keep my feelings on the side, yeah. Getting high until I fly, yeah. But now I'm scared of heights. I want it bad, does me good. Hey, I don't need no shit from you. Just cause I'm sad, it's a bad excuse. Because I know I don't need you. Yeah, yeah. Because I know I don't need you. No. Alright. Yeah. So I can't get enough of the good stuff. Give me one more time. But I'm never satisfied, yeah. Keep my feelings on the side, yeah. Getting high until I fly, yeah. Alright, we got that first gen motor in there, and to make it a little easier on my back, gonna get this bitch off of the lift. And get the other bitch on the lift.
But now I'm scared of heights. Another night, I hesitate, and now I'm stuck in yesterday. Well, if I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. Yeah, because I know I don't need to. Still I can't get enough of the good stuff. Give me one more time. So give me everything, all the good stuff. Only one more
Yeah, I
time.
pulled this flywheel off of our 2nd gen motor. You can see this one's actually lightened. And we have to pull off this gear sensor. Now be careful when you pull that off. There are 2 little pins behind here, and there are springs on there, so depending if the motor is straight down, they could fall out. Now, to pull off the flywheel, you need a 17mm socket and an impact. It goes down all the way. Now to pull the flywheel, you need a flywheel puller, but really all it is a bolt. It's an M20 by 1.5mm thread. Motion Pro sells these. They're like, I don't know, 10 or 15 bucks. They're pretty cheap. So you thread it in. Don't thread it all the way till it stops. Just thread it in a little bit. And then Motion Pro one is a 22mm socket on the end. And you hit it. Now that one came off really easy. Typically they actually don't, but if you need to pull it off, you'll throw heat on with a propane torch just on this center spot for a little bit, and that normally loosens it up enough. Alright, got the flywheel on, the gear position sensor on, we can get our stator cover on. Make sure you plug in your connectors that are normally back up in the tail, unless someone modified your bike. Get everything else buttoned up and see if she runs.
Got this thing done, pretty happy about it. If you guys got any questions, just ask below. If you're doing this into a 3rd gen, it's a little more time consuming, and you also have to pay attention because there's 2 spark plugs. That's one thing to consider when you're doing it. What we're gonna get into next time is the SV400 motor and finishing up the endurance bike. I did start it, didn't do a vlog about it, but it is getting there.